Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salam. Ala Rasulillah. Amma ba'. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you all know, without a shadow of a doubt, that it's from Allah's blessing upon you that you're looking to learn the Arabic language. The funny thing is that I made this same exact comment to an individual before, and he told me that I should be careful in the way that I phrase that statement. But I say to you, as I said to him, I mean exactly what you heard 110%. What can it be except Allah's blessing upon you that you find the desire in your heart to learn this language? It's the language that the Quran was revealed in, and we all know without a shadow of a doubt that the Quran is the best book in the world. And as if that wasn't enough, we find that the best of mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was sent to the people, and the Arabic language was his mother tongue. Subhanallah. These two reasons are enough to establish the fact that there is no other language on the face of this earth which is better than the Arabic language. Now, we need not bring any other examples on the excellence of the Arabic language. This is something that's understood. But I want to explain to you, as if any explanation is actually needed, why it is a blessing that you find in your heart's desire to learn this beautiful language. You can't possibly learn the religion of Islam the way that it should be learned, or even practice it the way that it should be practiced without a certain level of knowledge concerning the Arabic language. This is an issue that no one could possibly sit and argue about unless they just like hearing themselves talk. I could go on for days about this, but I do not really want to get off topic. The whole reason why I'm sitting in front of you all today is to share with you some tips that I found useful while trying to learn the Arabic language. As someone that Allah guided to Islam during my lifetime, I went through the whole phase that many of you have gone through, and many more still have yet to go through, inshallah. I went through learning the whole of the prayer in English, reading the Quran in English, listening to any old body give classes in English because I couldn't understand the classes that were given in the Arabic language. Then one day, like the majority of, if not all of you, I got fed up. I realized that I had to learn the Arabic language so that I could begin to understand what things are really about. I also wanted to see if that which was being translated to me was actually a correct translation and a correct understanding or not. Because of the fact that this desire was so strong, and my not knowing where to find a good teacher, I made that same mistake that I'm sure that some of you have made as well. I decided to go to the public library and get a book or two that would enable me to teach myself Arabic. Wow. Now that I look back, I remember all of the time I spent on learning my mistakes, and I just knew at the time that I was becoming an expert at the language. After a while, and a pattern of starting and stopping my studies, Allah blessed me to be able to enroll into a school that would teach me Arabic. The experience was completely different than anything that I had done before. And I'm sure you've all noticed this as you are trying to learn the Arabic language. I struggled and struggled and struggled, and it seemed like I was getting nowhere fast. The more that I learned, the more confused I became. So to be honest, I was ready to give up. A teacher named Abdul, I will never forget him. He pulled me aside one day and said to me something that now that I look back, I can honestly say that he probably changed my life. He said to me, Abdul Lateef, don't struggle so hard with the Arabic language. It's easy. You need to focus on the method that you use to actually learn the language. Now I'll tell you what, I had no idea at that time what he was trying to tell me. All I knew is I wanted to learn Arabic, and I just couldn't get it. It was about 3 to 5 months later when I actually realized and could appreciate that which he was telling me about. The trick really is how you actually go about learning the language. There are tricks that you can use to make things so much easier. How do I know this, you ask? How can I say this with so much conviction? Well, the answer is simple. It's because I spent so much time trying to learn it without these tricks that I think I've paid my dues on both sides of the fence. And today, I'm here to share with you some of those tricks. The first of these tips that I want you to write down today, and it's important that you write it down, is asking Allah for success. Skipping over this could be the whole setback that you've been experiencing and never realized it. If you haven't asked Allah for this up until now, then make sure you do so right now. As a matter of fact, even if you have, let's start over. There's no harm in that, just to make sure. The reason why this is the first and most important tip that anyone will ever give you is because there's no way that you will ever be successful if Allah has not willed and written it for you to be successful. And this isn't anything, not just learning Arabic. I can't possibly stress the importance to you of starting off any and everything by asking Allah for His aid. The second, but equally important tip that you need to pay special attention to when talking about trying to learn this language is your intention. You need to know why it is that you would like to learn this language. Now, what I want to do is hit this particular topic from 2 different angles. The first is something that is specifically for the Muslims amongst you, as not all of you are Muslims, as we know when we look around the room. We see that there are both Muslims and non-Muslims that are interested in the sweet taste of this wonderful language. But something we need to remember as Muslims is that you will be rewarded according to your intention. And this is known because of the famous hadith of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah be pleased with him. When he repeated the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, where he said that verily deeds are based upon their intention, and every individual will have the reward for that which he has intended, to the end of the hadith. But this is the part that concerns us here. And it is the part that talks about the fact that we will be rewarded, or the reward that we will receive is in accordance with that which we have intended. So as Muslims, we need to stay focused on why we're learning this language if we truly understand this point. And the second aspect that I wanted to mention is that it is important for us as Muslims and non-Muslims alike to know where we are going with our study, where we want to end up at. We need to know what is our goal. It's kind of hard for any individual to do something and they have no end game. You have no idea where you're going to go. It's like you just leave the house in the morning, you have nowhere to go, nothing to do. How much of a productive day can you possibly expect? Well, it's the same thing with learning this language. If you set a goal, you will work hard to get there. If you're just learning to have something to do, that's all the effort you're going to put forth. Exactly enough to achieve the goal of quote-unquote having something to do. These two issues are a must for those who want to learn the Arabic language. They are something that if they're not there now, you should without a doubt sit and figure out how they fit into your program, because they do. Even if you don't understand now, believe me, you will understand, just as it took me some time to understand when it was first explained to me. Now that we got that all out of the way, I want to give you some tips as to what types of tools you will need. I will explain to you how to keep the process of gathering them fairly simple and cheap. The first thing that you will want to get is a pocket-sized notebook. I mean the one that will be easy for you to carry around wherever you go. One kind of like this one here. You definitely want to stay away from getting huge notebooks or one of those really thick notebooks. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, I could put way more information in a big notebook. Why should I listen to him? First and foremost, because a huge and thick notebook is too big to be carrying around everywhere. You would just get tired of carrying it and start leaving it behind just because you don't want to carry it. And this defeats the purpose of having it to begin with. And secondly, they are not practical. As we see looking around the room, many of you are professionals. How's it going to look with you walking around the office or at the table for the business meeting and you're looking through this big oaky book? You get my point? You should have a small notebook, preferably one that you could put in your shirt pocket, again like this one. Now, I know some of you are looking at me like, what is this guy talking about? But think about it. How many times have you been somewhere and heard a new word or a phrase and wished you could have jotted it down? Would this book not have been handy then? Would it not have been best to have a book that is easily toted around and doesn't weigh you down? As well, you have the whole issue of your vocabulary words, and we'll talk in a few minutes about them in some detail. But do you really want to keep a huge book with you? You know that life usually keeps you busy, moving around from here to there, and you need something that you can have with you that you can pull out in the blink of an eye, as well as make disappear in the blink of an eye. Example, at the business meeting we just mentioned, or at the doctor's office, or on your way to work in the carpool. The point is that your quote-unquote pocketbook is a must. So go get one. As a matter of fact, grab a couple of them. They're very inexpensive. Another thing that you will want to invest in is a whiteboard. Without a doubt, you all know what a whiteboard is. It's one of those boards that you write on with the erasable markers. This is an invaluable tool to you as a student of this language, and rather inexpensive in terms of cost. The difference this will make for you as far as how much you can learn in a short amount of time will amaze you. The thing that will help you the most is the placement of this board. I see when I look around the room that some of you are older, which means you probably have a house and a family. It would probably be ideal for you to set up a place in the house that you can dedicate to your studies, because learning the Arabic language is not hard, as we stated before, but it does take a certain amount of dedication and concentration. So wherever this may be, you want to place it in a location in the room where you see it easily from your chair that you sit in all the time. This way you will read from it intentionally and unintentionally. You will win from both sides of the coin. And others of you obviously are college students or even younger than that. Your situation will be much easier. If you're serious, then place your board near your bed. Don't put it on the ground because that's way too low. And you also don't want to put it up way too high. Hang it at a reasonable height so that you can easily read it when you're either sitting on your bed or standing and walking around the room. It may sound funny now, but trust me, once you have hung it up and you have written on it, you will be amazed at one, how much you read it on a regular basis, and two, how quickly you memorize all that you write on there. You will find that this is because you will be constantly reading it, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And the more you read something, the easier it is for you to recall it later. Another thing that you can use in your quest to learn the Arabic language, which will make things much easier, is to go and buy some Post-its. Come on, you all know what Post-its are, don't you? They're those little yellow, orange, blue, or green shapes that you see people sticking all over the place. You want to use these to label all of those things around your home, and if it's possible, your office, that you have not memorized the Arabic term for. This will help you as a visual aid, so that when you think of these items, you will begin to think in Arabic and not think in English, and then having to translate it back into Arabic. And this will cut your work in half. So tell me, is the picture becoming clearer as to how all these things work together yet? I know you look at these things as though they're too easy to actually be beneficial. But hey, I told you that I thought the same thing when I was given these pieces of advice from my professor, so I can understand why some of you would think that. But listen, I'm speaking from experience, and my experience comes from a trained specialist not only in the Arabic language, but as well as teaching this Arabic language to foreign students. These things are instrumental parts of your study program. You don't want to continue going without. Now, I want to also give you some various pieces of advice. These are also important for you to know, to write down, and to put into practice. Stay away from, and I mean in capital letters, stay away from transliteration. Whether you call it transliteration, or Engelbic, or whatever term you use, I call it destruction. I know that you probably all have leaned on the Engelbic in a major way, and feel as though you've learned a lot through it, because you've seen yourself move further than most of those around you when it comes to vocabulary or even your phrases. It's good that you showed the initiative and tried to get the job done. But I want to tell you something. Now you will have to relearn that which you've learned once you actually know the Arabic. So from today forward, you have to run every time you see that Engelbic pop up in front of you. Trust me, I know it's easier, and you seem to get more for your money, but the more you learn from it, the more you will regret it. You will eventually realize that your pronunciation is way, way, way off in a lot of different ways. And as far as many of your vocabulary words, you will only be able to somewhat recognize them once you begin to learn them properly in Arabic. You will not only have to double back and relearn that which you already tried to obtain, but you will also have to somehow forget or unlearn the mistakes that you learned. Do you see now why I'm warning you against this? Do you see now why I call it destruction? Pay attention to this point as well. Most people do not tell you this, but it's very important. When we talk about learning the Arabic language, what do we mean by this? What do we mean when we say this phrase? Some mean they want to be able to read and understand. Others say that they want to be able to speak, and some actually mean both. But what have we left out of the equation? We have left out the written aspect of the language. Is writing not an aspect of most any language? Sure, there are some languages, like some of the dialects of the people of Senegal, that are not written, but rather just spoken. But this is not the case with the Arabic language. Writing will help out in so many different ways. You will even see that many experts tell you that the best way to tie down information is to write it down. So you need to know how to write and how to do it well. This too will aid you greatly in learning the Arabic language. And yet another priceless tip is to try as much as possible to surround yourself with the Arabic language. Get as many companions as you could possibly sit around and speak Arabic with them, and listen to them speak Arabic. You want to get tapes and MP3s so that you can listen to Arabic being spoken correctly. You obviously do not want to get anything too advanced. Now I'm going to give you a suggestion here that's probably going to make you laugh, but believe me, it works. Try getting some children's stories, especially stories that you already are familiar with. That way you can make sure that you know exactly what's going on and that there are no misunderstandings. Another thing that you can do is try to get your hands on some of those lectures or other audios that you know are translated live. Because after every so many sentences, you hear the English translation. This not only allows you to check your understanding, but as well to check your growing ability to be able to translate for yourself. It will also build on your confidence, and any confidence boost is always a good thing when trying to learn new things. Also, being as though we're in the computer age, you can find tons of cartoons on every subject in Arabic. Those same stories that we grew up with are even now in Arabic cartoons. So knock yourself out and enjoy your time getting familiar with learning this wonderful language. Another tip would be to make it an obligation on yourself to learn a certain number of words every day. People will tell you 5 to 10 words a day, and you will say this is way too easy. But listen, one thing you have to remember is memorizing them is only half of the job. You have to review and keep up with these words. So start off small. That way you won't have any valid excuse for not memorizing your words on a daily basis. Part of where most people go wrong is they start off running and they just run out of steam. So pace yourself. My advice to you, until you get used to memorizing and reviewing, only work on 5 words a day. That's 35 words at the end of the week, and a whopping 140 words at the end of the month. And by using this method of starting off with only 5 words a day, and getting those words etched into your brain at the end of the month, who knows, in a month or two down the line, you may see that you really can take on more, and not just for a day or two, but on a consistent and regular basis. Now this is the way that you should do it. This start off running method that so many people are teaching is crazy. They set you up for failure. 15 to 20 words a day, it seems easy in the beginning, but do you realize at the end of the week, that's 140 new words. And at the end of the month, that's 560 new words. Wow, that's a lot to keep track of. Each word and its usage, knowing that you have to get another 560 words next month. See how this is going to cause someone to find an excuse not to follow through? It's too much. Believe me when I tell you that consistency is the key. Listen to me run on and on. I'm talking to you about those who give the students too much to grasp all at one time, and I'm doing just that. We're going to call it a day here and pick up at the next gathering, where we talk about some of the issues surrounding building a personal program versus following an established curriculum. I will leave you with this though. I've been taught using these principles, and you see where it's gotten me. I teach these same tips to my students, and you see the results that come from them. As 9 times out of 10, you're only here because one of my students told you about these classes. All you have to do is look at the progress of the ones that came before you who actually use these techniques. Now I apologize for taking up so much of your time today, and we'll pick up next class as we just stated. Until then, go get the tools that we just discussed here today and put them into play. You'll see the